Karen Cariani, Director of the WGBH Media Library and Archives in Boston, Mass. And I've been an AMIA member since 1992. I actually heard about AMIA through a colleague who was working for American Experience when it first started. I think it was the New York conference in 1991, so a year after they actually formed.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to that conference, but just didn't have the funds and couldn't pull it together. So I went to the one in San Francisco in 1992. It was my first one. And it was, what drew me was like-minded people around who were archiving moving image materials and thinking, I had just sort of stepped into that role at GBH, and it was like, oh gosh, I could use some help. So to be able to talk to other colleagues and hear presentations about challenges that they were undergoing and how they were solving the problems was just really appealing at that point when it was really early in my career and I didn't know what I was doing. It's been a source of information. It's been a way to meet colleagues in like-minded situations and not like-minded situations, but to meet other colleagues that are dealing with the same issues and grappling with the same issues. And it's been an amazing way for professional growth to be able to get involved in the organization and to meet people and talk to them. Volunteering for AMIA has been enriching me personally and really helped me become a better leader and a better boss to some extent. And just realizing, being able to push your own limits and figure out what you can and can't do and to actually help the profession. I mean, it's been one of the few organizations that really is focused on audiovisual materials to really help the profession across the board in terms of small cultural institutions and even large archives. So, and that's what's really fabulous about it. A lot of the other organizations that deal with audiovisual materials are focused kind of on, big governmental institutions or just small cultural institutions or just university academic libraries. And AMIA really does kind of cover the swath of all of those. So you get the experience across the board and you can talk to colleagues across the board, and that diversity and perspective is really helpful and amazing. PBCore actually originally started, it was funded by CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the initial idea was to come up with a metadata schema so that public television stations could talk to each other and share files.
Okay.
They kind of saw down the line that we're going to be sending files across the system as opposed to sending tapes. So they very early on, Dave McCarn from GBH actually recognized that we're going to need to make sure we're all calling it apple and apple. We're calling these things the same thing, and we needed some kind of a structure to share that data. So that's where it started. But we found quickly that it was really useful for not just broadcasting stations, but for audiovisual archives, because it was one of the few schemas that really described an audiovisual archive and collection in a way that made sense. And that it tracked information that was important to those archives, and it made sense as a way to structure it. So the interesting thing now is I think there are probably more AMIA members using it than there are public television stations. So we're now going to flip it back and get them to use it. I remember in 1992 meeting Greg Luco in the elevator. And we're both 25 years younger and talking about our kids who were really little at the time. I think my daughter was 6 months old. My son hadn't even been born. And seeing him now as head of the Culpeper Center at the Library of Congress is just kind of amazing. But it was always those elevator introductions and conversations, or talking to Wendy Shea. I mean, most of the colleagues I see once a year. I see people once a year, but it's like, it doesn't matter that you haven't communicated over that year. It's like an old friend where, you just pick up where you left off and you touch base again, and it's very welcome and opening. So, and it always has been, which has been great. It's a personal connection, and I think it's funny because I think business or organizations have gone from those personal connections and face-to-face meetings to, we can do it all online now. We can do virtual meetings, and that's just fine, and we'll save money. And it's almost shifted back to, something, that personal connection and seeing someone one-on-one is really
Something's
important.
missing if it's not happening.
Something is absolutely missing, and you don't have that sense of trust and, camaraderie, and especially with collaborations, I think it's really important to continue doing that. And AMIA is a great place for that to happen, and for you to make those connections with people that you might not otherwise run across or see. Or it's been really good. I think one of the moments, I'm still trying to think of the moment.
Oh, sure.
Janice mentioned it this morning, the fire in the building, and everybody had that was pretty funny. It was like in the stairwell coming down and the emergency stairs in order to get out to the lobby, and then standing outside. Yeah, that was interesting. Alaska was great. I think the community of Moving Image archivists there were so passionate at the time of what they were doing that it just inspired everybody. And there was, it was a little chilly, but it wasn't too bad. Well, GBH, I became a member became an individual member with GBH support, right? So pretty much my staff, GBH supports their membership, mostly because I think it's important to their professional development, and I think that it's important for us to have a presence here just to sort of put our voice in as television broadcaster and an archive and video. We have a big collection, and it's good to share. I think we started talking to other folks about it. I think it might have been the NDIP project with WNET and PBS that also came into AMIA. And that was in collaboration with NYU. So Howard Besser, Nan Rubin was the project manager at WNET. She's now retired. But I think that kind of brought a little bit more public media into AMIA. Just AMIA is an amazing organization, and I hope it continues to flourish and spark new inspirational members of the AMIA and of the Moving Image community.